Well, next we can speak to France 24's political editor, Marc Perelman, who's with me here in the studio. Marc, of course, most polling stations have now closed. Do we have any kind of results at the current time?
Well, what we do have is a historic low turnout. Over 2/3 of the French did not cast a ballot. We've never seen such an abstention in all kinds of election. It's much more than last time. Yes, regional elections are less important than legislative and, of course, presidential elections, but this is really a record low turnout. And so this is clearly because the French are unhappy with their politicians, even politicians fairly close to them. I mean, those are regional elections that are not national elections. Nevertheless, they didn't go to vote today. Yes, there is a special reason for that. Those elections were supposed to be held a year ago because of the pandemic, the lockdowns. It had to be postponed until today. And as we speak, the French are maybe more interested in getting rid of their mask or living their first night in a few months without a curfew tonight. But clearly, this is a warning to all politicians, not just the politicians from the mainstream parties, but also from the far left for the far right, because contrary to what people are usually saying, they've been getting their fair amounts of votes, and they're parts of the political scene. They're not outsiders who can really benefit more than others from a record low turnout. We have to wait because there are 13 different regions, but if you look at a national level, the first estimates show that the Conservative Party is faring quite well. It held 8 regions out of 13. It seemed it's going to be able to hold on to many of those regions. The estimates is that the Conservative Party is getting something like 28% of the votes if you gather them nationally. Obviously, that's not how you calculate, but that's really very welcome for them because they fared very, very poorly in national elections. So they will see some encouragement. And especially, we just talked about Valérie Pécresse in the Île-de-France region, but there's another contender. He said he would run for the next election in the northern region of France, the Hauts-de-France, Xavier Bertrand, who is at the helm of the region and who is apparently well ahead in the first round, well ahead of his main rival from the National Rally, the far-right National Rally. They were neck and neck in the polls. It seems Xavier Bertrand is well ahead, so that's important for him, but it's also important for next year's presidential election because, as I said, he's one of the main contenders for the Conservative Party, and if he's able to confirm this good performance in the second round, this is clearly a good night for him. We'll have to wait for the other results, especially in the southern Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region, which could be maybe the region that the National Rally will be able to win.
Just on that point, we have one exit poll, Marc, saying that the party of far-right leader Marine Le Pen has come top in the first round in the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region, beating the incumbent centre-right into second place there. But Marc, for those viewers watching who don't maybe understand French politics and the electoral system, what does bagging a region mean for a party?
Well, in addition to the symbolic of winning a region, the regions have limited power in France. France is a deeply centralized state. It was always like this. The regions have some real leverage when it comes to transportation, when it comes to high school, and when it comes to professional training. But clearly in France, there's always been this debate that Paris shouldn't be the center of everything, but it still is the case today. So regional elections are clearly not the most important elections. This may explain partly why you have such a record low turnout, because people know that mayors are important. Mayors are really the most proximate election that you can get in France, but really the mother of all election is the presidential election. So this may explain the record low turnout and the fact that France Despite all the speeches about the need for devolution, for Paris not to control everything, France is still looking to Paris for answers on all kinds of issues, including sometimes the ones pertaining to the regions.
Now, Marcus, I want to update our viewers this hour. Pollsters here in France are estimating that Conservatives are dominating the first round of this regional election, with Le Pen's far-right party trailing there.